All right, back with another Power Rankings tier list here. Post Week 7 edition. Already through 7 weeks. We're like what? I don't know, around a third of the way through the season, including playoffs. So that's sad to think about. Let's not think about it. Let's have fun talking football. Teams on the list, those were teams that either had a bye week or play tonight. So if you want to hear why they're where they're at, you can check out last week's video. But let's start things off, as we always do, with the Titans, just because they happen to be first on this, the way this is made. They're a bad team. They did show some promise this week. They were able to kind of hang with the Patriots to some degree, but ultimately, I don't know. Cam Ward, why does he keep letting the ball slip out of his hands? I don't know what's going on with that, but not ideal. So that's bad. The Miami Dolphins, who, maybe I'm crazy. I don't think Tua's played I've watched Tua play these past 2 weeks. I don't think he's been horrible. A lot of the interceptions have been kind of his teammates' fault, or it's a little bit fluky. Ultimately, though, 6 picks in the last 2 weeks is a disaster, and they're just not getting enough offensively, and they're so bad defensively. I have been keeping them in Scrappy. I think this is the first week it's fair to drop them down a tier, and also the Jets. So first 3 teams we're talking about are going to be in the bad tier. Jets are, in my opinion, not great at football. That's not really a hot take, as they lose to the Panthers in a game where they can't get anything going offensively. They benched their quarterback and weren't even really able to get much going with Tyrod Taylor. So that didn't work out the way they were hoping for. So yeah, mess there. We then have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been keeping in bad, and you know what? Let's bump them up to Scrappy. Why not? Beating, I think, a pretty good Steelers team. We'll talk about them when we get there, but being able to win that game, Joe Flacco just consistently throwing to Jamar Chase as many times as he could. Hey, not a bad strategy, if we're being honest. And you also have T. Higgins there, and that's pretty much it. But, an offense of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is an offense that can win you some games, even if it's, divisional matchups are weird, Thursday night games are weird, all of that stuff. But still an impressive win for the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll bump them up a tier to Scrappy. The Browns, I'm going to keep them in Scrappy, even though they do pull off an impressive win against the Dolphins, being able to blow them out. And Browns defense is really good. Quinshon Judkins, really good. My running back number 1 in this draft class, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, big fan of him. He's doing some nice things with the Cleveland Browns. Still don't love their passing attack. It's not all Gabriel, just in general. It's just not great. I don't know if you're going to get much better than this, but, good running game, good defense. That's going to win you some games. Probably not going to win you enough to make the playoffs, but going to win you some games. So that's where Scrappy comes in. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I had a dark horse at one point. I put them in feels like playoffs last week. I think I have to drop them all the way down to solid with just, I feel like there is talent here, but man, did they beat themselves a ton in last week's yesterday's game against the Rams. It feels like last week with it being the morning game yesterday, but no, from yesterday, I took a second to get a sip of water, and now I have spilled water on myself. So we'll have to just deal with that for the rest of the video. Unfortunately, it is very visible. What else can I do? But no. So hey, in honor of the Jaguars making mistakes, I make a mistake of my own. Yeah, it looks like I got shot. It's very weird. Anyway, the Jaguars, again, the good news is they outgained the Rams in that game. I do think there is good qualities. I don't get what the logic was of not playing Travis Hunter defensively in the first half, because they couldn't get any stops, and once they put Hunter in, it wasn't just because of that, but it was in large part because of that. They started covering better. They were able to get stops, so that was weird. And then just again, consistently getting inside the 35 and just not being able to convert these fourth downs. People will blame the decision making, but ultimately, you got to convert to fourth downs. So, yeah. Still think there's talent here. Can see them climbing up the rankings, but for now, listen, a talented team that makes a lot of mistakes isn't that different from an untalented team. So, got to change that. The Minnesota Vikings, I had been keeping in solid. Ultimately, they do stay in a game against the Eagles. I'll keep them here for now. Again, I do think I want to see J.J. McCarthy back. I know Wentz does some nice things. He had some bad picks in that game as well. The pick 6 wasn't even his worst interception of the day, even if that was his most costly. So there is the issue there. And just this Vikings defense, it has taken a big step back. People are talking about the Sam Darnold decision because obviously that's what's going to get talked about. But to me, the biggest, or at least one of the biggest issues with this Vikings team is how much that defense has regressed. They don't stop the run as well. They don't cover as well. And because of that, I mean, again, a lot of teams struggle to cover A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but they really struggle to cover those guys. And they only have one style of how they want to win, which is blitz a lot. And that means you have to cover on the outside. If they can't do that, they're going to struggle, but they can't drop back and play zone because they're not built for that. So, yeah. But again, there's still some nice things about this team. I'm not going to drop them down a tier for losing to the Eagles, but I definitely am closer to mid than feels like playoffs for them. The 49ers, I dropped down a tier after they had that loss against Tampa Bay. Fred Warner gets hurt, and I'm like, is this just it? Is this team too injured? But an impressive win against a still pretty good Falcons team. We'll talk about them as the next team, but ultimately, I think this was an impressive win by the San Francisco 49ers, and their defense, despite who goes down, they still continue to cover well, and if you cover well, good things happen, in my opinion, and Christian McCaffrey getting going is huge. If they can get a run game going, this is a good team. They still need to get healthier. George Kittle, that helps the running game, him being a blocker, like that's a big deal. That they use him a lot as a blocker, so that is a part of it here. And then, of course, I still think they miss Brock Purdy, even if Mac Jones has played pretty well as a backup. So, yeah, feels like a playoff team for me for the 49ers. The Falcons, I had in solid entering the week. I see no real reason to change that. They still run the ball very effectively. It wasn't their best defensive day, but it was still a pretty good defensive day. The passing game is just really up and down right now. It feels like there are plays where they get guys wide open, but it seems like sometimes they struggle to, when guys aren't getting wide open, still make something work. I don't know if that's a Penix thing or what, but that's kind of been a thing so far. So with the up and down nature there, I can't fully say they feel like a playoff team, but I don't think they're a bad team. I'm not going to freak out over losing to, in my opinion, a good team. The Bears, who I have in solid last week, I think I'm going to keep them once again in the solid tier here. Be honest, Bears fans, be honest. When it was 20-14, and there was that false start penalty that at first we didn't realize was a false start penalty, and it was a fumbled snap. They don't convert to fourth down and goal. Saints are going to get the ball down 6. Be honest, you thought that, oh no, here we go again. Of course you would think that, because that's just kind of how things have been. But this is a new era with the Bears. Where that false start penalty happens, the Bears still get 3 points to go up 2 scores and hold on to beat, admittedly, a not great Saints team. And Spencer Rattler has been playing with fire a lot when it comes to turnovers here. The bad end of that, he's been taking a lot of chances. Ends up with 3 picks in this game. So also you got to give credit to the Bears defense though for getting those turnovers. They end up with 4 turnovers total on the day. And this is a team that gets turnovers. And again, we can talk about how fluky that can be game in and game out, and certainly season in and season out, but right now it's working for them, and so because of that, yeah, let's give them some credit for the win. Could end up jumping up a tier. It's possible. The Cowboys, who I've been kind of really just scratching my head to figure out what they are, but I had them in mid entering the week. I definitely had to bump them up at least 1 tier. Am I willing to go 2 tier? I don't think so. I think they've been too fluky up and down. They still don't have enough defense. I'm going to keep them in currently a very busy tier, that solid tier. I think there is good. Their offense is awesome. CeeDee Lamb coming back is just such a luxury, as George Pickens has really, he's been having a better year with the Cowboys than he did with the Steelers, which everyone says don't trade for Steelers receivers. Well, this seems to be working out amazingly. The whole offense is humming right now, and the defense had a nice day against the Commanders, even when Jaden Daniels was out there. So yeah, really good stuff here from the Cowboys. I'm tempted to bump them up another tier, but we'll relax there. Colts, who I put in Super Bowl contenders last week, and I feel good about that decision now. Beating the Chargers by 14 points. Like, this is the team that, keeps proving themselves. And I think I get why some people are a little bit, hesitant, because this is the best we've ever seen from Daniel Jones, and we're waiting, is the shoe going to drop? And they don't have a ton of, stars. They have a couple, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, right? But, this is a team built on just having a bunch of really good starters. And, hey, you can win a lot of games that way. You can win Super Bowls that way. So I think they're real contenders, and I'm going to keep them in this tier. The Rams have a really nice day. I have been keeping them in the dark horse category. I don't know. I'm tempted to bump them up a tier. I think I'm going to just hold off largely due to I want to be a little bit strict about that. But I'm very tempted to bump them up a tier because they did have another very good day. Matthew Stafford's playing great football. I do think that, like, even though the score ended up being awesome, we're only giving up 7 points, I do think that the defense as a whole didn't have their best day. I think that, this Jaguars, they did great on fourth downs and third downs, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. But there was a lot of yards that they were giving up on some of these plays. Again, we're splitting hairs when it comes to the top tier. Could they win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. That's why they're in dark horse. Very tempted to bump them up, but gonna keep them in dark horse for at least one more week. A team that has been in dark horse, I believe, a team that's actually been in Super Bowl contenders was the Chargers. I'm going to drop them all the way down to solid at this point. I mean, this is what a fall from grace this team is having right now. Again, starting off 3-0 with 3 division wins, you're thinking, wow, are they going to just run away with the division? How long can this last? Well, we're in, they played 6 games now, and they're in second place. So, tied for second place. They have the tiebreaker, but still, that is where they are, they are ahead of the. Wait, and I'm confused because they're. I'll double check. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong week. That's my issue. Yeah, they are 4-3. They are tied for second place. Sorry about the confusion. I accidentally clicked on their game last week, and so I had their record after last week's game. Anyway, tied for second place right now, and just not playing good football. Like, again, the blocking is an issue with the injuries. That sucks. Mekhi Becton got banged up in this game. Like, that sucks. But ultimately, like, I would say the one thing I look at is towards the end of that game, they did start finally passing the ball downfield and had some success with that. Maybe that's something they can learn, that, hey, you can still pass the ball downfield with a bad offensive line and all that. But, like, yeah. Or I should say an injured offensive line. But that's kind of how I view it for now. The Raiders, okay, let's just put them in bad. This horrible defensive performance. Geno Smith's tied for the league lead in interceptions. Granted, no Jacoby Myers, no Brock Bowers. That obviously hurts, but, like, yeah, this is rough. I mean, what are they? I like Ashton Jeanty. I like Brock Bowers. I like Jacoby Myers. I like Max Crosby. He's banged up too now. I mean, 4 players I'm listing, 3 of them are injured and 1's a rookie. I don't know. What a disappointment for this. Every week I'm like, Raiders are disappointing. They are. They're disappointing. Speaking of disappointing, the Washington Commanders, who, let's get into it. So, Jaden Daniels gets banged up yet again. That wasn't something, my number one concern with him when he came out of college was the injury stuff. He is someone who is not a huge guy and is someone who takes a lot of hits. And you just, for year one, it worked and you're like, okay, cool, it seems to be working. But now you're seeing it start to catch up with him. And obviously his rushing is such a part of his game. You can't take that out of his game. Ultimately, just hasn't looked as good when he's been out there. And this offseason, Commanders coming off of an NFC Championship game, had a ton of cap space. We were wondering, okay, what are they going to do to add to that? Maybe be Super Bowl contenders. I didn't love a lot of their offseason moves. I didn't love keeping Marshawn Lattimore instead of when you could have cut him and saved $20 million. I felt like that was kind of doubling down on the trade because you thought it would work. I feel like a team would have given you a pick to take him. You have got the money instead. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit the scheme, right? It's not a good scheme fit, and it's an issue. So they don't cover well. The offense is not the buzzsaw it was, and they're struggling to get it to be. I mean, I think it was fine in this game, but it's not what it once was. So, I had them in feels like playoffs because I think I was just expecting them to be like last year, and they just haven't done that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna drop them all the way down to mid. I was really disappointed with this performance from them. We'll see if they can get better, but for now, yeah, it's rough. It's a rough situation. I don't see them as a playoff team right now. They can change that, but I don't see them as a playoff team. Chiefs are Super Bowl contenders. I feel like, credit to me, at no point did I really buy into the Chiefs are dead narrative. I think the lowest I put them was dark horse here. I think I maybe considered feels like playoffs, but I don't believe I ever actually got them lower than that. And yeah, I mean, they're contenders. They're fantastic. Their offense is rolling. Granted, I still feel like I've yet to see them play a healthy, good defense. Like, Detroit has a pretty solid defense, but they have a bunch of injured corners, things like that. Chargers, I guess you would say, they had a good offensive performance there, but even though they lost the game, so there is that. But ultimately, it's the Chiefs. We know they're fantastic. They're playing really good. The Saints, which we could almost rename this tier to just the Saints tier, because again, staying competitive in games they ultimately lose. That is the definition of scrappy, and they are doing that to a T. The New York Football Giants next on the list. I had them in mid last week. I guess I'll keep them here. The mid are just like the I don't know what you are teams. The Ravens are there. The Commanders are there. I'm actually going to change the name of the tier. Okay, it's the what are you tier. I think this is a good name for it because I'm confused about the Giants, who have this incredible start. Their defense is playing fantastic. Jackson Dart's going full Jackson Dart. Laying blocks. He's passing up open looks to then run down the field and get more yards throwing down the field, and also running the offense and making some nice plays in script as well. And then ultimately, all hell breaks loose. Dart plays very poor in the fourth quarter, in my opinion. The defense plays even worse, and they ultimately lose the football game, giving up 33 points in the fourth quarter after pitching a shutout through the first three. I don't know what you are. You beat the Eagles last week, and then you have this disastrous loss. Hey, there's some good stuff here. We'll call it a learning experience and go from there for the Giants. The Eagles, who get a bounce-back win, again, Thursday night, divisional loss 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to freak out over it, even if it wasn't a good game. I put them in dark horse last week. I think that's still fair. Ultimately, the only thing they're doing well offensively is throwing the ball down the field. That being said, they're doing that very well. So if they can the simple stuff should be the easy stuff. The over the middle, the running the ball, not being able to get the running game going is very confusing because they haven't had massive personnel differences. They do have an injury to a guard, and they lost Mekhi Becton. So, okay, that hurts, but it shouldn't cause this, I guess. So I don't know why the running game is struggling so much. I don't know if it's coaching or Saquon Barkley looks good. I don't think it's him. He looks just as explosive when you do get him in open space. And his whole kind of thing is he's great when he's in open space. If you can't block for him, well, then what's going to happen? So, yeah, it's weird. But ultimately, they win the game, even if they did have a really long stretch where they cooled off. And again, if Carson Wentz doesn't have that horrible stretch, do they win the game? Well, hey, got to give credit to the defense for taking advantage of those mistakes. So again, dark horse feels fair, close to Super Bowl contenders. They certainly could win it, but I'm talking strictly right now. I think that they have a lot of time to fix the running game. If they fix the running game, they are, just to be solid, then they are Super Bowl contenders again. But when they have a bad running game, I think they're dark horse, not Super Bowl contenders. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And on the podcast, someone on the chat said that if the Steelers lose to the Bengals, I can't put them in dark horse again for the rest of the season. I bought into them. I put them in dark horse. They lose a disastrous Thursday night game against the divisional matchup, which happens. I'm going to put them in feels like playoffs. I think that I probably was a little bit over-aggressive jumping them up a tier. Aaron Rodgers has really worked for this team. He's played well. The defense, they don't have great depth at the corner position. That was a weird game. Jamar Chase and all that. Weird game. I'm not going to freak out over it, but I am going to say, dark horse is probably a bit optimistic. I still think they're a playoff team, though. Next up is the Denver Broncos, who I had in feels like playoffs, and I'm going to keep them there. Again, weird game against the Giants. This offense needs to fix itself. I've never seen a Sean Payton-led offense look this sloppy before, right? The X's and O's are still good and all that, but man, does this team beat themselves a lot offensively. This could have been a blowout victory if they just weren't making those mistakes through the first three quarters, and they did it against the Jets last week as well. Maybe they're jet-lagged, not getting a bye week because they chose not to after playing overseas, but I don't know. I still think they're a playoff team. I know the defense wasn't exactly what you would like this week, but defense is going to be fluky game in and game out. Still very good. I don't really see them too much higher than that, even if technically they're still in first place over the Chiefs, who I have 2 tiers ahead right now. Because I don't just look at the records. I try to look view the teams and also pay attention. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, so they get some extra credit for that, right? The Green Bay Packers, again, not the most dominant win. It feels like it's so weird, but it was weeks 1 and 2. They looked so awesome and have very much not I feel like they have not lived up to that standard since then. I still think they're very good though. I still think that this defense is very good. Micah Parsons has been what they want, what they paid for, right? We can all give our opinions about what the trade was. Personally, I thought that the the Jerry Jones is so stupid narrative was a bit overblown. I mean, I get criticizing Jerry Jones. I just think like sometimes it's okay to trade a good player to get a bunch of picks back. Like that's not the worst thing in the world. That being said, Packers feel as though they can win a Super Bowl. He's someone that's really helping them potentially do that. And I think he's totally worked and been what they want him to be. This team is not a dark horse team without him. This is not a Super Bowl contenders team without him. And Jordan Love just continues to play really good football. And to me, that's the most optimistic thing, if I'm a Packers fan, is it does start, optimistic Packers fans said, oh no, year one for Jordan Love, he was figuring it out. Second half of the year, that's when he figured it out and played well. And then the first half of year two, he was injured. Once he got healthy, he started playing well again. And then just had a bad game against the Eagles because everyone has a bad game against the Eagles. And, a lot of times when people try to do that math, it turns out, no, the player's actually just inconsistent. Well, here he's playing, like that seems to be true, perhaps. First half of this season, it seems to be like, no, he still has a little bit of inconsistencies, but is legitimately really good. And if you have a really good quarterback, a really good coach, a good offensive supporting cast, even if you are without a true number one wide receiver, in my opinion, although they have a lot of really good wide receivers, really good running back, good defense, like you could win a Super Bowl. In fact, I'm almost talking myself into top tier, but again, I want to see them play like it a little bit more before I put them there. So now we have the Carolina Panthers, who, I changed the mid-tier to what are you? And I think, like, what are you feels fair with the Panthers still. Like, they keep winning games. I don't think they've won super impressively, except for that Atlanta game, which was, like, ridiculously. That was so impressive that, like, everyone just throws it out. Because if they won that game 30-27, everyone would say impressive game. But because it was 30-0, we all say, like, what was Atlanta doing there, right? It's one of those weird situations. But yeah, I mean, hey, you're winning games. Bryce Young is banged up now, so that's not ideal. But ultimately, hey, 4-3 got to at least put you in the in that tier, even if I'm not sure how much I'm buying in long term. Arizona Cardinals, again, I think the what are you tier is a perfect tier for them. A team that has consistently played up to their competition and down to their competition. They are one of the best watches in football, I have to say. Every game has been incredibly interesting, even if it's been frustrating at times, even if you don't have a rooting interest with what they are doing. What are they? I'm not exactly sure, so that's why they are in the what are you tier. Finally, the New England Patriots, who, yeah, I mean, I feels like playoffs. This wasn't the most dominant first half. In fact, it was very much a game in the first half, but ultimately they had the score to put them up 2 scores, and then Cam Ward's ball slips out of his hands. They recover, get the touchdown. From that point, it was ball game for the Patriots. Drake May continues to play really well, so feels like a playoff team for me. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.